If you are watching this right now, know this: you are not here by accident. God Himself led you to this moment because you are chosen, you are special, and heaven has a word for your life. The season you've been walking through, those tears, that pain, the nights of confusion, it is not the end of your story. This season will not end in defeat. It will not end in shame. This season will end with God's glory shining over your life. Get ready, because a divine shift is about to happen. Where you felt broken, God will restore. Where you felt empty, God will overflow. What looked impossible is about to bow to the power of His glory. Your life is about to change in ways you never imagined. Heaven is setting you up for a testimony that will silence every doubt. So I encourage you, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and let's reach 10,000 subscribers together. By doing so, you're not just supporting a channel, you're joining a movement of faith, hope, and transformation. This season is ending, and it's ending with God's glory all over your life. Every season you go through in life has an expiration date. The pain you feel, the disappointment you face, the battles that seem endless, they are not permanent. They may look strong, they may seem like they will last forever, but God has already placed a limit on how long they can stay. Just like winter has to give way to spring and night has to bow to morning, every difficult season in your life must eventually pass. Nothing you are going through right now has the authority to define you. It may delay you, it may stretch you, but it cannot destroy you, because God has already written the final chapter, and it ends with His glory shining over your life. Sometimes it feels like the season we're in will never change. You pray, you believe, you try, but the struggle continues. The enemy whispers, "This is it. This is your story. You'll never get out of this." But that's a lie. God never created a season to be endless. He set boundaries around your battles, and He knows exactly when it will break. That sickness, that financial challenge, that heartbreak, that betrayal, it may have shown up uninvited, but it cannot overstay its welcome. It has an expiration date stamped by the hand of God Himself. Think about how nature works. No season lasts forever. Even the harshest winter must surrender to the warmth of spring. Even the longest night must give way to the rising sun. The same God who set nature in order has set your life in order. He will not allow you to remain in despair forever. That's why the scripture says, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." Night may feel long, but morning always arrives. Your morning is on the way, and your night cannot resist the light of God's promise. There are times when we wonder why the season feels so long. Maybe you've been waiting for years for a prayer to be answered. Maybe you've been carrying pain that seems unbearable. You've asked, "God, when will this end?" And heaven's reply is, "Sooner than you think." God knows what He's doing in the waiting. He uses the season to build your strength, to deepen your faith, to prepare your heart. What looks like a delay is often God's way of shaping you so that when the season does end, you'll be ready to step into the glory He has planned. When you look back, you'll realize that the season wasn't wasted. That heartbreak made you stronger. That rejection pushed you toward your purpose. That sickness showed you God's power to heal. That waiting taught you patience, endurance, and trust. Every season leaves behind fruit, and when it expires, it does not leave you empty. It leaves you equipped. God never allows you to go through something without giving you more on the other side. The pain you endure today will become the testimony that lifts someone else tomorrow. Don't let the season convince you that it's permanent. Sometimes the hardest part of the storm is right before it breaks. You may feel pressure, you may feel like giving up, but that's often a sign that the shift is closer than you realize. When a woman is about to give birth, the pain intensifies right before delivery. In the same way, the intensity you're feeling could be an indicator that something is about to be birthed in your life. You are not at the end of your story. You are at the turning point where God's glory will be revealed. You have to hold on to the truth that God has the final say. Circumstances don't have the final say. People don't have the final say. Doctors, bosses, critics, even your own doubts don't get the last word. God does. And when He speaks, He says, "This season will end with my glory." It may not end the way you expected. It may not end on your timetable, but it will end in a way that brings you into a place of greater strength, greater peace, and greater blessings than before. The enemy loves to make us believe that our present season is our permanent address. but you are not meant to live in sorrow. You are not meant to camp in defeat. You are passing through. That's the key. You're not stuck. You're moving forward. God is leading you out of the valley into the mountain. The tears you've cried are watering the seeds of your next harvest. The struggles you've endured are shaping the testimony that will inspire others. You are not forgotten. You are in transition, and every transition has an end. When Joseph was in the pit, it seemed like his season would never change. Betrayed by his brothers, sold as a slave, falsely accused, forgotten in prison, everything in his life screamed that it was over. But the pit was not permanent. The prison was not forever. At the right time, God lifted him from the lowest place to the highest place. In one moment, his season of pain expired and a new season of glory began. That same God is working in your life. He is faithful, and He is writing your story in such a way that the ending will be filled with His goodness. So don't lose hope. Don't let the weight of the present season steal your faith. The same God who parted the sea, who raised the dead, who shut the mouths of lions is the same God walking with you now. He has already circled the date when your breakthrough will come. He has already set the moment when your night will turn to day. Your season has an expiration date, and on the other side of it is glory greater than you can imagine. Keep believing, keep standing, keep praising even in the dark. The expiration date is closer than you think, and when it comes, you'll see that every tear, every battle, and every waiting moment was preparing you for a season that ends not in defeat, not in despair, but in the undeniable glory of God over your life. There are moments in life when the weight you carry feels too heavy to bear. You look at the challenges, the responsibilities, the heartbreaks, and the disappointments, and you wonder, God, why me? Why is this burden on my shoulders? What you need to remember is that God never allows a burden without a blessing attached to it. What feels like it is breaking you today is actually shaping you for tomorrow. That weight you are carrying is not meant to crush you. It is meant to prepare you for the blessing God has already placed in your future. Sometimes the greatest blessings are wrapped in the heaviest burdens. Think about how a seed must be buried in the dirt before it can grow into a tree. At first, it looks like it's been covered, hidden, pressed down, but the very pressure that seems like a burden is the process that produces life. In the same way, the pressures you are facing right now are not a punishment, they are preparation. God is using them to grow your faith, deepen your trust, and expand your capacity to handle the blessings He is bringing your way. There are times when we pray for promotion, increase, or new opportunities, but what comes instead is more responsibility, more challenges, or unexpected battles. It's easy to get discouraged and think, this isn't what I prayed for, but many times the answer to your prayer is hidden inside the burden. That extra workload at your job may be preparing you for the leadership role you've been asking for. That difficult season in your family may be teaching you compassion and patience that will bless others. That disappointment you faced may be the very thing that pushes you into the destiny God designed for you. Every burden you carry has purpose. You may not see it yet, but God is working behind the scenes. What you thought was a setback may turn out to be a setup. What you thought was an ending may actually be the beginning of something greater. That's the beauty of God's plan. He specializes in taking what was meant for harm and turning it for your good. When you feel the weight of the burden, don't give up. Don't let the heaviness convince you that you are finished. God is still writing your story, and the next chapter holds blessings you can't yet imagine. The truth is, the very things that feel like they are holding you back may be the things pushing you forward. That's how God works. He takes your tears and turns them into testimonies. He takes your pain and turns it into purpose. He takes your burden and transforms into a blessing that not only changes your life, but inspires everyone around you. People will look at your story and say, if God could turn that around for them, He can turn it around for me too. Your life becomes a living testimony of His goodness. Think about the story of the children of Israel in the wilderness. They carried the burden of slavery in Egypt for years. They cried out, they suffered, they felt forgotten, but God was preparing them for freedom. The very weight of their burden made the blessing of the promised land that much sweeter. When they crossed the Red Sea and entered into the land flowing with milk and honey, they understood that the years of labor and hardship were not wasted. They were part of the journey that led them to the fulfillment of God's promise. In the same way, the burdens you carry today are leading you to the blessings of tomorrow. What you're carrying now may not feel fair. It may not make sense, but trust that God has a plan. He sees the end from the beginning. He knows how to use every burden, every hardship, every challenge to bring out something good. The weight may be heavy, but you are not carrying it alone. God walks beside you, strengthening you, lifting you, reminding you that this is not the end. The blessing is on the other side, and it will be worth every step you've taken under the weight of your burden. Sometimes the blessing isn't just in what God gives you, it's in who you become through the burden. You come out stronger, you come out wiser, you come out more compassionate and more aware of God's faithfulness. That's a blessing in itself. The things you thought would break you actually built you. The nights you thought you couldn't endure became the very proof that God's grace is sufficient. The burdens didn't destroy you, they developed you. And now you are ready for blessings that you couldn't have carried before. Remember, diamonds are formed under pressure. Gold is purified by fire. Strong trees are rooted through storms. In the same way, your burdens are the process by which God is refining and preparing you for greater things. Without the pressure, there is no diamond. Without the burden, there is no blessing. The very things you want God to take away may be the things He is using to prepare you for the destiny He has designed. So instead of asking God, why me? Start declaring, God, thank you that you are turning this burden into a blessing. Thank you that what I'm carrying now will not crush me, but will catapult me into greater things. Thank you that I will come out of this stronger, better, and ready for the blessings you have prepared. That shift in perspective changes everything. You begin to see your challenges not as dead ends, but as doorways. You begin to recognize that God is using the very weight you thought would defeat you to lift you higher. No burden is wasted. No struggle is meaningless. Every hardship is part of the story God is writing in your life, and His story always ends in victory. What you carry today may feel overwhelming, but tomorrow you will look back and say, that burden was the reason I walked into this blessing. And when that day comes, you'll know beyond a doubt that God was with you every step of the way, turning your burdens into blessings, your pain into purpose, and your trials into triumphs. Every tear you've cried has meaning. Every sleepless night, every moment of pain, every silent prayer whispered in the dark, none of it is wasted. God sees it all, and He promises that one day those tears will be turned into joy. They are not just drops of sorrow, they are seeds of blessing. When you cry before God, your tears become prayers too deep for words, and He collects them as precious treasures. You may feel like your pain is unseen, but heaven has recorded every moment. Sometimes in life, tears fall not because of weakness, but because of the weight you're carrying. You've been faithful, you've tried your best, and yet things haven't worked out the way you hoped. Relationships break, opportunities vanish, loved ones walk away, and the heaviness in your heart feels unbearable. In those moments, it's easy to believe that your tears mean nothing, that they disappear into the ground and leave you empty. But the truth is, they water the soil of your destiny. Just as rain nourishes the earth so that life can grow, your tears nourish your spirit, preparing it for the harvest God has already planned. There are seasons when your pillow becomes stained with tears and you wonder if God even hears you anymore. You cry and pray, but the situation doesn't change. You wait, and it seems like the heavens are silent. Yet silence does not mean absence. Even when you cannot feel Him, God is closer than you realize. He bends down to hear your cries, and He assures you that your tears are not wasted. The very pain that drives you to your knees is the place where His strength begins to rise. The scriptures remind us that those who sow in tears will reap with joy. That means your tears are not just emotional expressions, they are investments in your future. Every tear you've cried in faith is like planting a seed in the soil of God's promise. Seeds don't show their growth immediately. They are hidden underground, developing roots, preparing for the right time to sprout. In the same way, your tears may seem invisible in their impact right now, but in time, they will spring up into blessings, restoration, and joy. Think about Hannah in the Bible. She wept bitterly because she longed for a child. Her tears were not wasted. They became prayers that moved the heart of God. In time, He gave her Samuel, a son who grew to be a prophet. and leader for Israel. Her sorrow gave birth to her miracle. That is how God works. He takes your weeping and turns it into rejoicing. He takes your broken heart and fills it with new hope. He takes your tears and uses them to water the very ground from which your miracle will rise. Your tears also carry power because they reveal your dependence on God. When you cry out, you are saying, Lord, I can't do this without you. And God never ignores a humble heart. He draws near to those who are brokenhearted, and He promises to save those who are crushed in spirit. Your tears are like a language that heaven understands perfectly. Even when you don't have the words to express your pain, your tears speak on your behalf. Sometimes your tears are not just for yourself. They are intercessions for your children, your family, your loved ones. You may not see the results right away, but your prayers and your tears are shaping their future. God is protecting them, guiding them, and writing their story even while you wait. There will come a day when you see the fruit of every tear you cried over them, and you will realize that none of it was in vain. Your tears are also a testimony in the making. When others see how God brings you through, your story will inspire faith in them. They will say, if God could restore them after all that pain, He can do it for me too. Your tears today will become the encouragement for someone else tomorrow. That is why they are not wasted. They are being transformed into a story of God's faithfulness that will bless others long after your season of sorrow has passed. It's important to understand that God doesn't just see your tears, He honors them. He values them so much that in Scripture, it says He keeps them in a bottle. That's not just poetic language, it's a reminder that He doesn't let a single tear fall unnoticed. He treasures them because they represent your heart, your love, your hope, and your faith. He will never waste something so precious. There may be moments when you feel like your tears are a sign of defeat, but in reality, they are proof of your perseverance. They mean you haven't given up. They mean you still care, you still hope, you still believe that God can turn it around. Don't ever be ashamed of your tears. They are not weakness. They are strength clothed in vulnerability. They are reminders that even in your pain, you are still reaching for God. One day, you will look back on the nights of weeping and realize they prepared you for the mornings of joy. You'll see how God took every tear and wove it into the tapestry of your story. What was once pain will become praise. What was once brokenness will become beauty. What was once sorrow will become a song of victory. That's the promise God gives, that He will wipe away every tear, not just by erasing them, but by redeeming them into something greater. So if you are crying today, don't lose heart. If you are weeping in silence, don't believe the lie that it's meaningless. God is closer to you than ever. Your tears are precious to Him, and He is already working on your behalf. Soon, those tears will be exchanged for laughter. That mourning will turn into dancing. That heaviness will be lifted and replaced with joy overflowing. Nothing you've been through will be wasted because God specializes in turning your tears into triumph. Hold on to hope. Keep trusting even when the tears fall. Believe that the God who sees you in the valley will also lift you to the mountain. And when He does, you'll stand strong and declare, every tear I cried was worth it because it led me to this moment of joy, this place of peace. This testimony of God's glory over my life. So much of what God does in your life happens where no one can see. It happens in the quiet places, in the waiting, in the times when it feels like nothing is moving. You pray, you believe, you hope, and still there is silence. But silence doesn't mean absence. Hidden doesn't mean forgotten. What you cannot see is often more important than what you can. God is working behind the scenes, arranging details, aligning people, preparing opportunities, and shaping you for what's to come. Just because you don't see the evidence today doesn't mean nothing is happening. Deep roots grow underground long before a tree rises to the sky. When you feel overlooked, when your efforts seem unnoticed, when it feels like your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling, that is often when God is doing His greatest work. He doesn't always show you the process, because if you saw it, you might rush it or resist it. He hides the work so that when the time comes, the glory He reveals will be undeniable. You won't be able to take the credit. People won't be able to explain it. The only answer will be, this was God. Think about how seeds grow. You plant them in the soil, and for weeks there's no visible change. You water them, you wait, but nothing seems to be happening. Yet underneath the soil, roots are forming, life is stirring, and in due time, the plant breaks through the surface. The breakthrough is always preceded by hidden growth. The visible glory is only possible because of the hidden work. In the same way, every prayer you pray, every act of faith, every tear you shed is producing something underground in your life. You may not see it now, but at the right time, it will come to light. There are seasons when God will deliberately keep you hidden. You may feel ready for the promotion, ready for the opportunity, ready for the spotlight, but He knows you need more preparation. Being hidden is not rejection, it's protection. It's God's way of ensuring that when you are revealed, you'll be strong enough to handle it. If you step into the blessing before you're prepared, the blessing could overwhelm you. So God lets you grow in secret. He allows you to be developed away from the eyes of people so that when He finally brings you into the open, you'll be ready to carry His glory. Look at the story of David. Before he became king, he was a shepherd boy in the fields, invisible to everyone but God. His brothers overlooked him. Even the prophet Samuel almost ignored him. But while David was hidden, God was preparing him. The battles with lions and bears were hidden work. The songs he wrote in the solitude of the fields were hidden work. No one saw it, but God was shaping his heart, his courage, his faith. And when the time came, when he stood before Goliath and later before a nation, the hidden work became visible glory. The same is true for you. What you're doing in secret, the faith you practice when no one applauds, the prayers you whisper when no one listens, those hidden moments are building the foundation for the glory God will reveal. There's a reason the foundation of a building is underground. It's not glamorous. Nobody praises a foundation, but it is what determines how tall the building can stand. The higher the structure, the deeper the foundation must be. In your life, the hidden work is your foundation. The longer God keeps you hidden, the greater the glory He plans to reveal. Don't despise the hidden season. Don't think it's wasted time. It's the most critical part of your journey. Sometimes you'll see others advancing, receiving blessings, stepping into opportunities, and you'll wonder, what about me? You'll feel overlooked, forgotten, left behind. But you're not behind, you're being prepared. God isn't withholding from you, He's getting you ready. You may be hidden right now, but you are not hidden forever. There will come a time when what God has been doing in you will be revealed, and the glory will be so great that it will make sense why the waiting had to be long, why the hidden work had to be deep. Hidden work also develops humility. If you receive glory too soon, it might inflate your pride. But when you've been through the seasons of obscurity, when you've had to trust God without recognition, when you've been faithful in small things, then when the glory comes, you'll know it wasn't your doing. You'll give all the honor to God because you'll remember the nights you cried, the days you felt invisible, the prayers you prayed in secret. The glory will shine brighter because you'll recognize it as His. You may feel like nothing is happening, but something always is. Your character is being shaped. Your endurance is being tested. Your faith is being strengthened. God is chiseling away the things that don't belong, polishing the gifts inside you, and preparing you for impact. What looks like a delay is actually development. What looks like silence is strategy. And what feels hidden today will become a testimony tomorrow. One day, the door will open, the opportunity will arrive, the answer will come. And it will be clear that this was not the result of your own efforts. This was God's glory being revealed through the hidden work. People will look at you and wonder how it happened, how you went from overlooked to chosen, from forgotten to favored, from hidden to revealed. And you'll know that the hidden season was worth it because it produced a glory that only God could bring. So if you're in a hidden season right now, don't be discouraged. Don't think God has abandoned you. Don't mistake silence for absence. He is working in ways you cannot see. And the deeper the hidden work, the greater the visible glory. Trust the process, stay faithful in the unseen moments, and believe that in due time, what has been hidden will shine for all to see. And when it does, no one will doubt that it was God who brought you through, because the glory will be too great to explain any other way. There are moments in life when we pray with all our hearts, when we stand in faith, when we do everything we know to do, and still the answer doesn't come. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and sometimes months into years. You begin to wonder if God heard you at all. You ask yourself if maybe you missed something, if maybe the promise wasn't really for you. But let me assure you of this truth: delay is not denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. Just because the answer hasn't arrived doesn't mean God isn't working. A delay in timing is not a denial of your destiny. God's timing is not like ours. We want things instantly. We live in a world of speed where we can order a meal in seconds, send messages across the world in moments, and expect results right away. But God doesn't work on our timetable. He works on His, and His timing is always perfect. Sometimes He delays not to withhold, but to prepare. Sometimes He delays because what you're asking for is bigger than you realize, and He has to arrange circumstances, align people, and build foundations before He can release it. What looks like a pause to you is actually precision to Him. When you're in a season of waiting, it's easy to feel forgotten. You see others moving forward, stepping into blessings, receiving answers, and you think, what about me, Lord? Did you skip over my name? But God hasn't forgotten you. He has you engraved on the palm of His hand. If He made a promise to you, He will keep it. The delay doesn't mean He's ignoring you. It means He is working all things together in a way that will bless you beyond what you asked for. Think about Joseph. He received a dream as a young man that he would be in a position of leadership, that people would bow before him. But what followed wasn't a throne. It was betrayal, slavery, false accusations, and years in prison. For more than a decade, it looked like the dream would never happen, but the delay wasn't denial. God was using every step, every hardship to prepare Joseph for the place He had promised. At the right time, in a single day, Joseph went from the prison to the palace. If God had fulfilled the dream sooner, Joseph wouldn't have been ready. The delay made the destiny possible. The same is true for you. Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it won't. Your waiting is not wasted. Every day you remain faithful. Every moment you choose hope over despair. Every prayer you whisper, even when you're weary, is preparing you for the promise. God uses the waiting to strengthen your faith so that when the blessing comes, you won't just enjoy it, you'll sustain it. There are times when what you think is a delay is actually God's protection. Maybe you prayed for a relationship, but it didn't work out. Maybe you asked for a door to open, but it stayed closed. It feels like rejection, but it's really redirection. God saw what you couldn't. He knew that what you wanted would have harmed you, or that the timing wasn't right, or that He had something far greater planned. The delay is not punishment, it's preservation. It's God making sure that when the answer comes, it will be the right thing at the right time, in the right way. You have to hold on to faith in the in-between. That's the hardest place to be, in between the promise and the fulfillment, in between the prayer and the answer. It's where doubt creeps in, where discouragement tries to take root. But that's also where faith grows strongest. Faith isn't proven when everything happens instantly. Faith is proven when you wait, when you don't see the evidence yet, but you still believe. Every time you declare, God, I trust you, even when nothing changes, you are declaring that delay is not denial. Think about how many times in Scripture God's promises took time. Abraham waited decades for the child God promised. Moses waited 40 years before leading the people out of Egypt. David waited years from the time he was anointed until he finally became king. Over and over again, delay was part of the process. But in every case, God was faithful. What He spoke, He brought to pass. He hasn't changed. He is the same God working in your life. You may not understand the delay, but you don't have to. You just have to trust that God does. He sees what you cannot see. He knows what you do not know. He is orchestrating things behind the scenes in ways you may never realize until later. And when the answer finally comes, when the door finally opens, when the promise finally shows up, you'll understand why it took so long. You'll see that the waiting wasn't wasted, that the delay was necessary, and that the glory revealed was worth every moment. The key is to not let delay discourage you into giving up. Too many people quit in the waiting. They assume that because it hasn't happened, it won't. But the only way you miss out on the promise is if you stop believing, keep standing, keep praying, keep trusting. The delay is not forever. It has an expiration date, and when that date arrives, nothing and no one can stop what God has planned. You may be waiting for healing, for restoration, for breakthrough, for provision. and it feels like it's never going to happen. But God is faithful. He did not bring you this far to leave you now. The promise still stands. The answer is still on the way. Delay is not denial. It is simply God saying, I'm preparing something greater than what you asked for. One day soon, you'll look back and say, I'm glad it didn't happen when I wanted it to. I'm glad God delayed it because His timing was better than mine. His plan was greater than what I could see. What felt like a delay will reveal itself as destiny. And when that happens, you'll know without a doubt that God never denied you. He was setting you up for glory greater than you imagine. There are seasons in life when the pain feels overwhelming. You wonder if it will ever ease, if the heaviness will ever lift, if joy will ever return. Pain has a way of clouding our vision, making us believe that what we are feeling now is all there will ever be. But the truth is, God never allows pain without a purpose, and He never lets suffering have the final word. His glory will always outshine the pain. No matter how deep the wound, no matter how heavy the loss, no matter how long the night, God's glory has the power to turn the darkest valley into the brightest testimony. When you're hurting, it's easy to think the pain defines you. You begin to identify with the loss, the betrayal, the heartbreak, or the failure. But pain is not your identity. It's an experience, not your destiny. It may visit your life, but it cannot stay forever. God has already planned a day when His glory will break through and overshadow the pain you've endured. The weeping may last through the night, but joy comes in the morning. And when joy comes, it has a way of making the sorrow fade in comparison. The glory of God doesn't just remove the pain, it transforms it. The very thing that caused you to cry will be the reason you lift your hands in praise. The wound that felt unbearable will become the place where God's power shines the brightest. When His glory is revealed, you will see that the pain was not wasted. It was the soil from which His blessing grew. Think about how gold is purified. It must pass through fire to have its impurities removed. The fire is painful, but the result is beauty and strength. In the same way, your pain is a refining fire. It feels harsh, it feels consuming, but it is producing something inside you that will reflect God's glory in a way nothing else could. You are being shaped into a vessel that carries His presence. And when His glory rests on you, it will be greater than the pain ever was. Look at the story of Job. He endured loss like few ever have. He lost his children, his wealth, his health, and even the support of those closest to him. His pain was unimaginable, yet Job's story did not end in ashes. The scripture says God restored him and gave him double what he lost. The glory at the end of Job's story far outshined the pain at the beginning. That's what God does. He may allow seasons of pain, but He never leaves them unredeemed. The glory He brings afterward is always greater than the suffering that came before. Sometimes we think the glory will erase the memory of the pain, but that's not how God works. Instead, He redeems it. He gives meaning to what once felt meaningless. He uses your pain as a testimony to encourage others. He allows your scars to become proof of His healing power. The pain may have left a mark, but the glory will make that mark a story of triumph. You'll look back and say, I thought this would break me, but it made me stronger. I thought this was the end, but it was the beginning of something greater. God's glory doesn't just outshine your pain, it makes it fade into the background. Have you ever walked out of a dark room into bright sunlight? The light is so powerful that it overwhelms the darkness. That's how God's glory works. When it shines in your life, the pain that once consumed you will seem small in comparison. The joy, the peace, the restoration He brings will be so great that the sorrow will no longer have power over you. It's important to remember that pain is temporary, but glory is eternal. Pain may visit for a season, but it cannot last forever. Glory is God's promise. Glory is His signature over your life. Glory is the light that will always outshine the darkest night. You may feel like your story is stuck in the chapter of pain, but God has already written the ending, and it is filled with His glory. The enemy wants you to believe that the pain is permanent, that you'll never heal, that you'll never smile again. But that's a lie. Pain doesn't get the final say. God does. And His word declares that your suffering will not compare to the glory that is going to be revealed. That means what's coming will make what you went through pale in comparison. The laughter ahead will be louder than the cries of yesterday. The peace you're about to walk into will be deeper than the chaos you endured. the blessings that are on the way will be greater than the losses you faced. One day, the tears you cry will be replaced with tears of joy. One day, the heaviness will lift and your heart will feel light again. One day, the pain that felt endless will be a memory overshadowed by the goodness of God. And when that day comes, you will testify not about how heavy the pain was, but about how great His glory became. So if you're walking through pain right now, don't lose hope. Don't give in to despair. Remind yourself that this is not the end of your story. God is not finished yet. The same hands that allowed the pain are the hands that will heal you, restore you, and lift you into His glory. And when His glory shows up, it won't just match your pain. It will outshine it, overwhelm it, and completely overshadow it. Hold on to that promise. Keep believing even through the tears. Keep trusting even in the valley. The glory is coming, and when it arrives, you'll see that the pain was never wasted. It was the pathway that led you to a greater revelation of God's power and love, and you will declare with confidence, the glory of God has outshone the pain in my life, and His goodness has the final word. Storms are part of life. They come unexpectedly, they disrupt your plans, they shake your foundations, and they leave you wondering if you will make it through. The winds of adversity blow, the rain of trials pours down, and the clouds of uncertainty cover your sky. It can feel overwhelming, even frightening, but storms are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to prepare you. Every storm you go through has purpose, and that purpose is to lead you into sunshine brighter than you've ever known. The storm is temporary, but what it produces in you will last forever. When you find yourself in the middle of a storm, it's easy to question God. You ask, why me? Why now? Why this? But storms are not punishments. They are classrooms. They teach lessons you could not learn in calm weather. They strengthen your faith, deepen your trust, and shape your character. Without storms, you would never know how strong you can be with God by your side. Without storms, you wouldn't see the power of His hand to calm the waves and speak peace into the chaos. The very thing that feels like it's breaking you is actually building you. Think about how a tree grows stronger. When winds blow against it, the roots are forced to grow deeper into the ground. Without the resistance of the wind, the tree's roots would stay shallow and it would topple when storms came. In the same way, the storms of life push your roots deeper into God. They make you cling to Him, depend on Him, and discover strength you didn't know you had. What feels like resistance is actually growth. And when the storm passes, you'll be standing taller, stronger, and more rooted in faith than before. Storms also clear the atmosphere. They wash away the dust, refresh the earth, and bring nutrients that the soul needs to produce new life. Spiritually, storms do the same thing. They remove what doesn't belong, they expose what needs to be healed, and they prepare you for new growth. Sometimes storms shake relationships that weren't meant for you, or strip away opportunities that weren't aligned with your destiny. It feels painful in the moment, but once the storm passes, you'll realize it was making room for something better. The sunshine on the other side reveals why certain things had to be removed. Look at the disciples on the Sea of Galilee. They faced a storm so fierce that they thought they would drown, but in that storm, they encountered Jesus in a way they never had before. He stood up and commanded the wind and waves to be still, and suddenly there was peace. Without the storm, they would have never seen His power over nature. Without the storm, they would have never learned that He was not just a teacher, but the Lord over all creation. The storm prepared them for a greater revelation of His glory. Your storms work the same way. They are not random. They are not meaningless. They are preparation for a deeper encounter with God. They are setting the stage for you to see His power in ways you never have before. When you're in the middle of the storm, it's hard to see the purpose. But if you hold on, if you trust Him, you will look back and realize that the storm was necessary for the sunshine to come. The sunshine after a storm always feels brighter. Why? Because you've experienced the darkness. You appreciate the calm more because you've lived through the chaos. You value the peace more because you've endured the struggle. The storm prepares you to receive the sunshine with a grateful heart. It makes you stronger, but it also makes you more thankful. You begin to realize that every blessing is a gift. Every sunrise is a miracle. Every moment of joy is something to be cherished. Sometimes storms also push you into your purpose. Jonah ran from God's call, but a storm brought him back. The storm redirected him to where he was supposed to be. For you, the storm may close doors that you weren't meant to walk through, or it may push you onto a path you never would have chosen on your own. But God uses it all. He doesn't waste the winds or the rain. He uses the storm to get you exactly where you need to be for His plan to unfold. The enemy wants you to fear the storm, to think it will sink you, to believe you won't make it through. But the truth is, the storm cannot stop the promise of God. If He said you're going to the other side, then no storm in the world can prevent that. The winds may blow, but they cannot break you. The waves may rise, but they cannot drown you. The storm is not the end of your story. It's the preparation for the next chapter. So don't despise the storm. Don't think of it as wasted time. Let it do its work. Let it deepen your roots, strengthen your faith, and cleanse your life of what doesn't belong. Remind yourself that storms always end. No matter how fierce, no matter how long, they always give way to sunshine. And when the sunshine comes, it will be brighter than before. You'll stand stronger, speak with more faith, walk with more confidence, and carry a testimony that will inspire others. One day, you'll look back on the storm and realize it was the turning point. You'll see how it prepared you for blessings you couldn't have handled before. You'll understand why things had to be shaken, why certain doors closed, why you had to endure those nights of fear and uncertainty. And when you see the sunshine, you'll say, I was worth it. The storm prepared me for this joy, this peace, this glory. Hold on through the storm. Keep your eyes on God, not the waves. Trust that He is with you, even when the winds roar. And know this, the storm is not here to destroy you. It is here to prepare you. The sunshine is coming, and when it breaks through, you'll walk into it stronger, wiser, and more blessed than ever before. One of the greatest assurances you can carry in life is this: God always finishes what He starts. He is not like people who abandon projects halfway or lose interest when things get difficult. When God begins something in your life, He intends to bring it to completion. He is a God of follow through, a God of completion, a God who doesn't leave His work unfinished. If He has planted a promise in your heart, if He has begun a work in your spirit, then you can rest in the confidence that He will see it through until the end. Life can make you question that truth. You encounter setbacks, delays, disappointments, and detours. You wonder if maybe God changed His mind, or if somehow you disqualified yourself from His promise. But God doesn't start something and then walk away. He doesn't give you a glimpse of your destiny just to tease you with it. If He said He would do it, then He is committed to finishing it. The timing may not match your expectation. The path may not look like what you planned, but the outcome is secure. God never abandons what He begins. Think about creation. When God spoke the world into existence, He didn't stop at day one. He didn't quit when the earth was still dark and void. He kept working step by step, day by day, until the masterpiece was finished. He separated light from darkness, land from sea, sky from earth, and filled the world with life. Only when He had completed everything did He rest. That's His nature. He doesn't leave things incomplete. And if He was that intentional about creation, how much more intentional is He about your life, which He formed with His own hands? Sometimes it feels like God has forgotten you, like He started writing your story, but then left the pen on the table. But the author of your life doesn't leave chapters unfinished. He writes every detail with purpose. And even when the plot twists don't make sense to you, they are part of the larger story He is telling. He knows the ending from the beginning. What looks like an interruption to you is often just a setup for His glory. Trust that the pen is still in His hand and He is still writing. The enemy will whisper lies in the waiting. He'll tell you that God has abandoned you, that the promise is dead, that what you hope for will never happen. But those lies are not the truth. God Himself declares that He who began a good work in you will carry it to completion. That means He's not finished with you yet. You are a work in progress, and progress takes time. Just because you don't see the finished product doesn't mean God isn't working. Look at the life of Moses. God called him to lead Israel out of Egypt, but after he killed an Egyptian, he fled into the wilderness for 40 years. From the outside, it looked like the calling was over, like God had abandoned His plan, but God hadn't forgotten. At the right time, He appeared to Moses in the burning bush and reignited the purpose He had spoken years before. The delay didn't mean denial. God simply wasn't finished yet. And when the time was right, He brought Moses back into the fullness of his calling. You may feel like you're in a wilderness season, like your dreams have been put on hold, like what God spoke to you will never come to pass. But remember, the wilderness is not the end of your story. It's part of the process. God is still working. He is still preparing. And when He's ready, He'll bring you out of hiding and into the very thing He promised. He won't leave it undone. God also finishes His work in ways that exceed your imagination. We often picture a small outcome, a partial blessing, but He goes above and beyond. When He restores fully. When He blesses abundantly. When He fulfills a promise, He does it in such a way that no one can doubt His hand was in it. That's why you must never give up midway. The unfinished stage is not the final stage. God's glory shines brightest in the completion. Think of Jesus on the cross. One of His last words was, "It is finished." He didn't leave salvation halfway. He didn't stop short of the full price. He completed the work of redemption once and for all. That's the God you serve, one who completes His promises. If He was faithful to finish the work of salvation, you can be confident He will finish the work He started in you. Sometimes finishing looks different than what you expected. You may have envisioned one path, but God closes that door and opens another. You may have prayed for a certain outcome, but He gives you something greater instead. His finish is always better than your plan. Trust that however He brings it to pass, it will be for your good and His glory. So when you're tempted to give up, when the process feels too long, when you feel stuck in the middle, remind yourself God is not finished with me yet. This is not how my story ends. If He started it, He will finish it. And when He finishes it, it will be more beautiful, more powerful, and more glorious than I imagined. Your responsibility is to stay faithful in the process. Keep believing, keep praying, keep obeying, even when you don't see progress. Every act of faith is a step closer to the finish. Every time you choose trust over fear, you align yourself with His plan. And in due time, you will step into the finished work. Hold on to hope. Don't let delay convince you otherwise. God's track record is perfect. He has never left anything incomplete. And He won't start with you. One day you will look back and see how every step, every trial, every season was part of His process. And you will stand in awe of how He brought it all together. His glory will shine through the completion, and you will declare, God has finished what He started in me, and it was greater than I ever dreamed. Your life is not just about you. Every struggle, every setback, every victory, and every breakthrough has a greater purpose than you realize. God is writing a story with your life, and that story is meant to inspire others. You may not see it while you are in the middle of the battle, but one day the pain you are enduring will become someone else's encouragement. The tears you cry now will water the seeds of hope in another person's heart. Your story is bigger than your circumstances. It is part of God's plan to reveal His glory to others through you. When you go through trials, it's natural to wonder why. You ask God why He allows you to experience loss, betrayal, disappointment, or seasons of waiting. But often, the answer is not just about what He's doing in you, it's about what He's going to do through you. There are people connected to your testimony, people who will find strength in the way you endured, people who will find faith in the way you trusted, people who will discover hope in the way you rose again. God never wastes a story. If He brought you through it, He will use it. Sometimes we think our story has to be perfect in order to inspire others. We believe that people only want to hear about the victories, the successes, the moments where everything turned out exactly right. But often, it's the broken parts of our story that inspire the most. People don't connect with perfection. They connect with authenticity. They need to hear that you struggled, that you doubted, that you almost gave up but chose to keep believing. When they see that God brought you through something real, they know He can bring them through too. Think of the people in Scripture. Joseph's story inspires us not because his life was easy, but because he endured betrayal, slavery, false accusations, and prison, yet God still elevated him to a place of influence. His story tells us that setbacks are setups, that what others meant for evil, God can turn for good. David's story inspires us because even though he failed, even though he made mistakes, he was still called a man after God's own heart. His story tells us that God's mercy is greater than our failures. Paul's story inspires us because he went from persecuting the church to becoming one of its greatest apostles. His story tells us that no one is too far gone for God to redeem. In the same way, your story will inspire others. You may not see yourself like Joseph or David or Paul, but your life is a testimony of God's goodness just as much as theirs. When you share how He healed you, someone else will believe healing is possible. When you share how He provided for you, someone else will trust that He can provide for them. When you share how He gave you peace in the middle of chaos, someone else will look to Him for comfort. What you have lived through is a gift, not just for you, but for others. Your story doesn't have to be finished to inspire. Sometimes the most powerful testimony is not, I made it through, but I'm still standing in the middle of it, still trusting God, still holding on. That kind of faith inspires people more than you realize. When others see you walking through fire and still lifting your hands in worship, it plants seeds of faith in their hearts. When they see you waiting patiently and refusing to give up, it teaches them endurance. Your story, even unfinished, has the power to change lives. There are people right now watching you quietly. You may not know it, but they see how you carry yourself, how you respond to adversity, how you keep moving forward even when it's hard. Your children, your friends, your coworkers, they are witnessing your story unfold. And one day they will look back and say, because I saw how they trusted God, I learned to trust Him too. You may never realize the full impact of your story, but heaven sees it and God is using it. Don't be ashamed of where you've been. Don't hide the chapters of your life that were painful, messy, or imperfect. Those are often the chapters that God uses the most. Someone needs to know they're not alone. Someone needs to hear that they can make it through what you already survived. Someone needs to see that God's grace is bigger than their failure. By sharing your story, you open the door for others to step into their own healing. Your story is also a weapon against the enemy. Revelation says we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. That means your testimony has power. Every time you tell your story, you are declaring that the enemy didn't win, that the storm didn't sink you, that the fire didn't consume you. You are proclaiming that God's power is greater, and that inspires others to believe the same for themselves. One day, the pieces of your story that don't make sense right now will fit together perfectly. The nights of crying, the seasons of waiting, the disappointments and delays, all of it will come together as part of a greater picture. And when you see the masterpiece, you'll realize that your story wasn't just about your own journey. It was about the people who would be touched by it. It was about the lives that would be changed because you didn't give up. So don't minimize your story. Don't believe the lie that it's too ordinary or too messy to matter. Your story matters. It matters to God, and it matters to the people He has assigned to hear it. You may never stand on a stage, but your life is a platform. Every act of faith, every word of encouragement, every choice to keep believing when it was easier to quit. That's part of the story God is writing, and it has the power to inspire generations. One day, when you share what you've been through, someone else will look at you with tears in their eyes and say, if God did it for you, He can do it for me. And in that moment, you will see why you had to walk the path you walked. Your story was never just about you. It was always about inspiring others to see the glory of God in their own lives.